people say, oh, I keep attracting the wrong man, or, the clients, they never have enough money, to take advantage of my offers, or whatever it is that you're, continuing to focus on, complaining about. Guess what? You're drawing in more of the same. So it starts with that awareness. And then once you become aware, now what you want to do is you want to create a new default setting.
The more specific you are, the better off you are, right? As far as manifesting it.
Most people don't really know what they want. They have a very vague idea that, like, well, I want to make it big, or I want to find love, or I want to be healthy, or they have very broad general ideas. And that's not going to really get you, where you ultimately want to go. They're really just afraid to say what they want because they just automatically reject themselves before the universe or before anyone has a chance to reject them.
Today, I am joined by a worldwide leader in hypnotherapy, a best-selling author, international speaker, life success coach, and renowned authority on the law of attraction. Through her podcast, The Power of Your Mind, she exudes her passion for inspiring listeners with influential guests in the areas of self-development, mindset, discipline and habits, entrepreneurship, wealth, and relationships. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I am so excited that you're here. And every topic I just listed is something of interest to me, and I'm sure everyone that is now tuning in. But can we start out by you sharing a little bit about your personal journey and how you became interested in hypnotherapy and the law of attraction?
Absolutely. So my journey, well, it started when I was born. But, I would say from a really early age, when I was probably about 6, 7, 8 years old, I, was in school and I was teased in school by all the kids. And it was kind of a sad story. I would go home every day, like, kind of, crying, what's wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. And then I started actually getting in touch with, like, just this source that was inside of me that just told me, just everything's going to be okay. I just somehow, like, I really felt like there's something kind of guiding me, watching over me, just from a very early age. And it was in that moment also where I saw the sixth graders put on a play, The Wizard of Oz. Everyone's, familiar with this wonderful movie. But they were doing the play, and I decided right then and there, in the first or maybe even second grade, that I was going to play Dorothy in this when I got into sixth grade. And so that's where, like, my manifestation journey began. I manifested the part of Dorothy by the time I got into sixth grade. And I knew from that point forward, if I just, whatever I put my mind to, I get it. And every single thing that I've ever put my mind to, I've just gotten that. And I didn't know that I was really tapping into this law of attraction or manifesting or what it was. I just knew that there was a special way of focusing and being disciplined and being determined that would just bring whatever I imagined into my reality. So fast forward to adulthood, and I manifested being a stockbroker, even though you were supposed to have all these credentials that I didn't have. I didn't go to college. I didn't do the traditional things, and but I manifested, being a stockbroker, ultimately getting myself in the corner office, getting my own assistant, having a six-figure a year job, which I thought all of that was going to ultimately be the end all be all, of happiness. And it was, about 6 years into this career that I kind of realized that wasn't the end all be all. And I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what that looked like. And so I started taking personal development classes. And during that, there was like a 4 day, really intensive personal development class. And it was during that time that I really decided that this is the path for me. I didn't know exactly what it looked like, but I knew I wanted to be the person that was inspiring all these people in, their seats. And um so I decided to it was kind of an interesting transition, but I decided to bring this personal development into the comfort of people's homes. Because, I always wanted to be a singer, so I had a good voice. And I started making these meditative recordings, and they sounded amazing. And but I wasn't 100% sure about my writing. I wanted to make sure that what I was saying, we didn't have ChatGPT back then. We didn't have the internet. Well, we barely had the internet. I was just kind of getting started. But, so that's when I decided to take a hypnotherapy training course to train myself how to write scripts. And that was the whole reason why I even got trained in hypnotherapy. I didn't think that I was going to actually, become a hypnotherapist. I was just taking it because I wanted to make these great recordings that I would sell on my website. And so I decided that I was going to, start a business of, creating recordings that people could, at the time there wasn't downloads, it was cassettes and CDs. So I would mail them out. And eventually, it did turn into MP3s. And I created one of the largest hypnotherapy download websites at the time. But even, before that, kind of what happened to make that transition was about 4 months after I got certified in hypnotherapy, and I had opened up my office. Um, and I didn't, I was just kind of putting one step in front of the other. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I just said, okay, well, I'm going to open up an office and start seeing clients. Well, by doing that, I had to get a business license and I had to get all of these things. And my branch manager, where I was a stockbroker at the time, found out about what I was doing. And 4 months into my brand new business where I wasn't making any money yet, I was spending more money than I was actually taking in, he gave me an ultimatum. And it was an ultimatum that changed the whole trajectory of my life, because had he not given me that ultimatum, I don't know, if I would have had the drive, the motivation really to make a real career out of that. I just kind of was doing it on the side because, maybe one day I might quit my day job and do this full time, but that wasn't my intention at the time. And so he gave me that ultimatum, gave me 30 days, and we can all guess what decision I made. And February of this year, 2024, will be my 25-year anniversary since, taking that class and becoming a hypnotherapist. July of this year will be 25 years since I quit my job.
Wow, that is so neat to hear. And mostly because I'll share something personal. Tomorrow, I start an NLP training.
Oh, what timing is that? That's
Right?
amazing.
Right? Oh, that's incredible. Okay. I want to dig into a couple things. So you started out learning about law of attraction without really knowing that was what it was called. You became Dorothy in Wizard of Oz. Flash forward, you become a stockbroker. So you have this interest in manifestation, law of attraction, hypnotherapy. How did you end up manifesting being a stockbroker? Did your beliefs come into play? Like you had a belief that you couldn't have a career in law of attraction, or you didn't know that you could?
I didn't know anything about I didn't I it never even occurred to me. My goal at the time was that I wanted to be a singer.
Mm,
And now my father was a stockbroker. And so I did have a little bit of a background in it. And when I moved at like 19, 18, 18, when I moved from Seattle, Washington to Los Angeles, where my father lived, I lived with my dad for about a year and I became like a little office manager, admin assistant kind of person. And so I did that. And then I was called by a recruiter to go work for this other brokerage firm. I worked for my dad for about 9 months. Then I worked for this other brokerage firm for about 6 months. And that was it. That was my only experience in that field before moving to Las Vegas. So I moved to Las Vegas. I thought I had a job all lined up and it fell through. And so I went to a, headhunter, employment agency at the time. And so they looked at like, okay, well, you have this, so I had this experience as in that business. And they said, you have all this experience there. So you know, let's line you up with that kind of work. So I became a, sales assistant working for a couple of brokers. And it was kind of like one of these things where just like one thing just sort of led to another. Like I didn't really intend for myself to get that far along. I wanted to increase my income. And so I got registered as a sales assistant because I could make a little bit of commission from being able to be more valuable to the brokers. And so I did that. And then it turned out that that wasn't really all that it was cracked up to be. I didn't really make a whole lot more money. And I'm like, well, now that I've got my Series 7 and I'm fully licensed, why not just go ahead and become a stockbroker? So it was just kind of like by default. It was interesting because the branch manager where I worked at that time, that was Payne Weber, he told me that since I was a sales assistant, I would always be a sales assistant and that I couldn't, just was not going to help me out. And so in the building I worked, there were two other firms. There was Dean Witter and Shearson Lehman. So I went to both. I went to Shearson Lehman and I went up there. I was just determined. Like something came over me and I was just determined to have them give me a chance. And so I just tapped into my whole, memory of like, okay, visualize yourself getting this job. And so I kept visualizing it. And, but, visualizing with action of every day going up there and like, letting him know that I was available and I wanted to work for them. And it's not the easiest thing. I mean, they put $50,000 worth of training into you. You go to New York, learn like, for 3 weeks, you learn all of these, sales strategies and you learn obviously about, stocks and bonds. You have to take, and I was already coming to them registered. So that was definitely an asset. Anyway, so it was just, I kept using the power of visualization and I just kept seeing myself and feeling myself getting that job. And then it was so surreal because it happened. It was like at that time, it was like it seemed like, wow, that's like such a prestigious job. And I'm going to be wearing like suits every day to work. And I would just see myself in this whole situation. And it happened. And again, it was not really coming necessarily from any kind of formal training on it. It was just sort of my own intuition. And I had read one book, I will say, it was called Total Self-Confidence by Dr. Robert Anthony, that my mom got me when I was 18. And that helped. I mean, that really there was a lot in there about your mistaken beliefs and, just things that you can do. It did teach you some goal setting and some visualization. So I had that book sort of behind me. And I had dabbled a little bit here and there in reading about like meditation. I had this like innate idea that I liked this kind of thing, but it never even occurred to me until after taking that seminar that like, oh, this could actually be a career. Like I could actually do what I really loved. Like I manifested for common things, but like getting to make recordings for a living and work from home, that it almost like it was like it seemed a little too good to be true for that to be my calling. And I really had to just kind of step into that to be my calling. And it turns out that it always was.
Mm,
Um, it wasn't until after seeing the movie The Secret that I really started deciding to own my place in this world as a law of attraction teacher. I taught people about a little bit about law of attraction, like way before The Secret. You can go back and actually see a lot of my YouTube videos, even before The Secret came out, talked about this thing called law of attraction. But I was, I was not, I was not really owning it because I don't know. I didn't feel like there was a big market for it. People didn't know what it was. And um, now when The Secret came out, I was like, oh, wow, everyone knows what this is. And I can finally just kind of claim my place in this world as this is who I am. This is what I talk about. This is what I teach.
mm. Yes, and now it's this huge thing. Everyone's heard of law of attraction now, and I feel like it can almost get kind of confusing because of how many different voices are talking about it at this point. So, what key principles do you believe are essential for individuals looking to manifest their dreams?
And it does get confusing. I really want to validate that because there are so many different schools of thought on it. And so I was asked to do a certification training way back about like 6 or 7 years ago. And at that time, I didn't really have my um, curriculum. Like I didn't know exactly like, well, I believe this about it. I believe this about it. I believe this about it. These are the things, but I didn't really have it all like as a ABC, you do this, XYZ. I didn't have my framework. And so that opportunity led to me creating a framework around it, which ultimately became my book, Practical Law of Attraction. And my framework is all of the things that I have learned over the years that I feel like it really takes in order to manifest. And, like it starts with you got to know what you want. You got to have some kind of a desire. And most people these days, or in any, not just these days, but most people don't really know what they want. They have a very vague idea that like, well, I want to make it big or I want to find love or I want to be healthy or they have very broad general ideas. And that's not going to really get you, where you ultimately want to go. And I think people know what they want, but they're really just afraid to say what they want because they just automatically reject themselves before the universe, before anyone has a chance to reject them.
Mhm.
And, it was kind of like me when before I decided that, like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to say, I can make a living, selling things online, and helping people, which seemed like, wow, it seemed crazy at the time. I mean, this was back in 1999. And so it's those things, though, that you think are crazy, that are deep inside of you that, really, that's what you were meant for. And so, again, it really starts with knowing, like, who you are and what you want, out of this life, and aligning yourself with all of the aspects of yourself to get there. So you get really clear, you align your thoughts toward that, you start to actually pay attention to, what am I thinking? And so often we use the word against ourselves constantly, like, oh, I'm not good enough, or this isn't happening, or so we have to get our thinking in alignment. We have to get our emotions, our vibration in alignment. We can be thinking good thoughts, but if we're really not believing the, you know, what we're saying at a subconscious level, then we're not going to line up with it. And and then we also want to use our tune be able to tune into our intuition, which has answers beyond our conscious understanding. And of course, we have to take action. And then there's gratitude and acknowledging the things that you have. So those, I sort of gave you a little bit of a quick rundown of the 8 manifesting conditions that I believe all need to be in alignment to manifest.
A couple of them I want to point out, getting clear on what we want. You are so right. Every single person I talked to about this or I've worked with, that is the number one thing that they get hung up on, because it's like you ask them, well, what is it that you want out of XYZ? Well, where do you want out of your home, out of your partner, out of your job or your business? And it's usually like a word or a short sentence. And the key is, the more specific you are, the better off you are, right? As far as manifesting it.
Absolutely. And there's a dance that, and a balance between the um the clarity and the specific and being very specific,
Mm.
and also being willing to have it be even better. Because here's the thing, is like, sometimes it may not line up in the exact time frame that you're looking for. It may take a different path than you had expected that it was going to take. All of my big manifestations, like my house, my husband, and my soon to be launching Believe app, which I'm still in the process of manifesting, all of these took such a crazy path that were so different than I ever imagined, but I just had to keep, like, believing. bel- and that's why this app is called Believe, because, like, that is such a key to, so it's the clarity, but it's also the belief, and it's also the detachment from the how and the when. And that, like, I mean, your dream man, you get very, very specific about all the things, and maybe two of those things you can let go of because they're not that important. It's not a deal breaker, out of the 20 things that you listed that you wanted in your relationship. But you got extremely clear and dialed in, and that kind of creates an internal radar system that allows you to, because we have this part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which ultimately it filters out billions of bits of data, because we're constantly being presented with all this information throughout the day. And if we had to think about all and process and deal with all of the billions of bits of data that are always happening, we would go crazy. And so this part of our mind blocks out whatever's not important to us. How does it know what's important to us? It knows what's important because that's what we spend the vast majority of our time thinking about. The caveat is that it doesn't know whether something is bad or good or negative or positive. And so if we're constantly thinking about something that we don't want to happen, guess what? We're going to manifest that too, because it's filtering out all the things that are outside of the realm of what we're dominantly focused on. And so if we're dominantly focused on bad things happening, by and large, not 100% of the time, but by and large, we're going to manifest something that's on that, in that direction. So where was I going with that? I was going with like all the times that I've ever manifested something. It was like I knew exactly in the end what I needed that to look like. The very specifics, like my house. I knew exactly what I was going for with my house. But I didn't know exactly how it was going to happen. And the same thing, with my husband. I mean, my husband and I actually had a breakup before we got engaged. And I just said, okay, the right one will come when it's time. And so anyway, y- g- getting clear is super important.
Yes, and letting go of the how and really the outcome. And
Hmm.
another thing you just said, though, about thinking about the things that we don't want, how we can also kind of accidentally manifest those.
Yeah.
That's very tricky, especially when you become aware of this. And so then it's like, don't think about horses. You're going to think about horses. So if you're telling yourself not to think about something, you're thinking about it. Is there is there some type of, I know I have heard Abraham Hicks talk about 17 seconds. So you
Hmm.
need to focus on something for, according to Abraham, 17 seconds for it to begin to manifest. So if we can stop ourselves from thinking about something that we don't want quickly, does it not count?
So yeah, in the same way that I'm a little bit like with the 17-second thing, I'm a little bit not necessarily in agreement that it only takes 17 seconds to manifest. However, I do subscribe to the fact that if we can get our intention pure, like we can get on that pure stream of thought, without having it infiltrated with all the doubt and all the fear and all the negative that might come up. So if it only took that much time though to manifest something, then we'd be manifesting a lot of things constantly that we want and we don't want. We'd be winning the lottery. We've been having Ferraris in our front, porch and things like that. It does take a little bit longer than that. But to answer your question, so how do you get yourself to stop thinking about and focusing on the things that you don't want? Um, and it really does, I think you mentioned awareness. It really does start with that awareness. Most people, they'll start this work and they'll start the work and they're not even aware of how much time they actually spend complaining about things and calling in more to complain about. And and even those of us who are very advanced at this, we still fall into the trap of sometimes focusing on things that we don't want. I mean, I would say there's a very good chance that I manifested my app project taking way longer than it was supposed to because I had the wrong team and I kept focusing on all the things that I didn't like and that were going wrong and that were upsetting to me and frustrating and annoying and all of that. And guess what? That just led to more crap. And so, but here's the thing, I'm aware of that now. Like I have been able to um, realize that, like, wow, I mean, you know, it goes back to, like, really believing that our thoughts and our feelings and what we're visualizing are what are creating our reality. So I had to, like, take a step back and look at myself again and go like, "Oh, yeah, I'm creating this." And that awareness, it's like that wake-up call. You realize, "Okay, I keep thinking about why," what I keep saying, like, people say, "Oh, I keep attracting the wrong man," or the clients, they never have enough money, to take advantage of my offers, or whatever it is that you're, continuing to focus on, complaining about. Guess what? You're drawing in more of the same. So it starts with that awareness. And then once you become aware, now what you want to do is you want to create a new default setting because this has been the default setting. Whatever you have that's in your life right now, you just take a look around you. That's your default setting. That's your set point. That's what you've been allowing and accepting and drawing in to your reality. So you want to start to think now, what is my new default setting? And it's a picture, it's a feeling, and it's like the words. And, so what's the picture of the new reality that you'd like to create? And you get that very, very dialed in and very crystal clear. What is the feeling? What does that feel like to be in that end result? And what are the words that would go with that? And you kind of create like a mantra or an affirmation around that. And so whenever you find yourself in the old default thinking, like, oh, um, not, all these bad things keep happening, nothing good is happening. I keep attracting the same stuff over and over again. But stop. And you want to say something to yourself that gets you to stop. It could be the word stop. It could be like, I like using, what am I manifesting right now? Because, like, if you think about it, it's like that really is like, okay, like I don't want to be manifesting what I was just thinking about, right? And so you say, what am I manifesting right now? And then boom, you switch to the new vision, thought, and feeling. And the more you do that, the more you're literally breaking that neural pathway connection in your subconscious mind. And you're rewiring, literally rewiring the neural pathway to, like, whenever you get into that, it's just automatically going to go to the new path. And eventually, that old pathway, it it's no longer a real it's no longer familiar territory. You have created new familiar common ground, and that is going to ultimately lead you toward more and more, you know thoughts, feelings, and actions toward the end result that you're wanting to create.
Yes, I do something similar every time I get a thought that I don't want to have. And I will think, that's a silly thought. Where did that come from? That's not mine. And
Love
just
it.
kind of laugh at it, like, don't don't um don't put too much weight on it. Don't take it too seriously. It's just kind of let it go. And I'm glad that we're getting into mindset because we have covered how, it's not just getting clear, it's your mindset, it's your actions, it's your emotions, everything encompasses manifesting and law of attraction. what's a tip that you could give the listeners that will help them to develop discipline and positive habits?
That's such a good question. And, I highly believe in having an established daily routine. Preferably in the morning because that gets your day started off with the right mindset. You can do it also in the evening and or in the evening. Um, the best of both worlds is actually having one in the morning and having one in the evening. But the first thing is, I think you really need to get control over your ability to think clearly. And that happens, I believe in silent meditation. Like I believe in having, hypnotherapy, but before doing the hypnotherapy, doing a silent meditation for like 5 minutes to where if any thought enters in, you just send it away and then get back to your focal point. What that does is that manages, just like we were talking about, like those silly thoughts that come in, that's going to help you to actually do that because we can really get addicted to, getting more deep into that thinking. And, so we want to just be able to cut that immediately. So having some kind of a morning routine where it just really sets you up to think in the way that you want to be thinking throughout the day and feel the way that you want to be feeling throughout the day. So a silent meditation, saying or writing down some affirmations, doing some visualization work, visualization on not just the end goal, doing some on the end goal, but also seeing yourself actually stepping through and taking the actions that you need to be taking, having that discipline, like part of discipline entails believing that you can actually do the thing that you need to be disciplined to do. And, having the confidence that you're going to keep your word, that you're going to actually do the things. The more you keep your word with yourself, the more you're instilling some confidence and some strength in that word that like, okay, whatever I say I do, I do. And that transcends any of the, negative thinking that we get into because the more we empower our word, the more we do what we say and that ultimately will take you to a stronger place with yourself and that stronger place where if s- if something's not quite working out exactly in the way or exactly in the timing, you can just say, I can create my reality and I can, continue to strengthen my word. And each day is going to get better and better because I said so.
Mhm. You mentioned everything that you had manifested using law of attraction, including your husband, your business, your home. So let's say somebody listening has manifested that, whether it's, one of those. How does the law of attraction relate to building and maintaining healthy relationships or a thriving business?
How it relates to creating a healthy relationship is by programming. So this is where we kind of get into more like the hypnotherapy side,
Mm,
because law of attraction only works because of what we have created in our subconscious mind. So whatever we have in our subconscious mind is what's going to ultimately show up in our outer reality. So that's to me where we really get into programming our mind with the clarity and with the thoughts and with the feelings of whatever it is that we want to create. And so, we have to like take a look at what have the relationships been like in the past. If you have not had healthy relationships, what has been my role? Like, how did I call that in? And because to me, it takes two to tango. Ultimately, if you've called in unhealthy relationships, there's a part of you knows that I'm in an unhealthy relationship. So what is it that you've accepted? What have you decided about yourself such that, you're accepting these negative things to, happen in relationships? And so you want to take a look at that and you want to empower yourself with new positive suggestions that say, I'm worthy of having great relationships. I deserve the best. Also taking a look at your filters by which you see the world. Like so many people, they say, like, oh, all the good ones are taken, or all men are scumbags, or they'll say these things, and it's like, well, if that's what you believe is true about the world, that's what you're ultimately going to call in. So we've got to reprogram our minds to believe good things about not only ourselves, but the people that we're able to draw into us. And then maintaining that healthy relationship is also a matter of continuing to, focus on what's right about the relationship that you have right now. It's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, he doesn't do this, or he doesn't do that, or he's does these bad, nasty behaviors or whatever. But maybe that's only because you're focusing on those aspects of the relationship. No one's perfect. And so, what are the positive qualities? And when you start to actually focus on what's right about that person, and you express gratitude for what's right about that person, you express it to yourself, but you also express it to them, they're going to be much more inclined. They like the appreciation. So they are going to be much more inclined to be better because they're feeling more acknowledged. And they're going to, and because that's the way you see them, they're like, they kind of need to live up to the way that you see them. And so ultimately, whatever you focus on and project onto your relationships, I think, is mostly, what you're experiencing and getting back.
Oh, that's so great. Yes. Okay. So if you have it, don't be afraid to lose it. You can maintain it by focusing on all the positive aspects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay. I have another question for you, but before I ask it, where can people find more of your work and connect with you?
They can, all everything's on victoriamgallagher.com, my website. And, that's where they'll be able to find my courses, my books, my app, Believe, coaching, you name it.
That is so exciting about the app, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long time in coming. I have an app right now called HypnoCloud, but this one, Believe, is bigger, better in every, it's going to have more content, more things that you can do inside the app. It's going to be pretty amazing. So
Oh,
it's,
that's great. It's great. The world needs more of it. So I'm happy to hear, anything involving these topics that we're discussing needs to be out there more for more people to hear.
yes.
My final question for you is, what is your number one health tip? Whether it's mindset, diet and nutrition, physical, emotional, just the one piece of advice you would like everyone to know.
My number one health tip. I would say that my number one health tip is that it starts with having the intention and the mindset to be healthy. Speak to yourself in ways that promote good health. Like so many people, they complain about their body aches and pains, or telling themselves that this is just what happens when you get old and things like that. You want to actually speak into existence how you want to feel, how you want to be. You want to, I mean, I've run marathons, and I did that because of the fact that I trained my mind to be able to move through those tough places. And, we all, go through tough places in our health. I think we all have at some point some kind of health challenge, whether it's our weight or overcoming smoking or whatever. Tell your body what you want it to do, and it will do that.
Yes, self-talk and the language we use. Yes,
It's so
absolutely.
important.
So important. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. This has been lovely, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your wisdom and your expertise. And make sure you check out the description. You'll find all of Victoria's links there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was so great. You asked wonderful questions. And I love your presence and energy. And thank you for the wonderful gift that you are putting out into this world as well. And I
Oh,
wish you luck with your NLP training.
thank you. Yes, I'm so excited. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm sure
Thank
we'll be
you.
in touch soon.